I'm posting this under an alt account because nobody is going to believe me. But at this point, I don't care. It happens. Your words can't change shit, so deal with it. I was abducted. There's no denying it. I can't explain why. And all I can tell you is what I went through. So yeah, enjoy. I woke up in the middle of the night to what felt like an earthquake. And I tried to get out of the bed to wake my wife and get the kids out of the house. But I quickly realized that I couldn't fucking move. Next thing I know, I'm surrounded by a bright light, and it looks like someone shining a floodlight on everything in our room. My body is vibrating like nothing that I've ever felt in my life. Like what I assume being a phone stuck on vibrate would feel like. I was absolutely terrified that I couldn't move. I thought that I was literally about to die. And then, poof. Like I just got hit with a shot of morphine. A weird, chill vibe came over me, and I felt lightheaded, like blissful. I still couldn't move, and I could still feel the residual pressure throughout my body, and at that point, I didn't really know what was happening. And that's when I saw the tall guy in the room next to my bed. I don't know how he said it, but he told me,
"Be still. You're okay. It'll only be a moment."
I heard him, but I didn't. I don't know what the fuck to say other than that. I heard him, but I didn't see him say shit. I couldn't make out any features, but he had a really long neck. That's all I saw. That's when it happened. I started seeing images and words flying through my vision, and it felt like I was watching 1,000 movies all at once, and I couldn't keep track of them all, and yet I watched every single one individually. It was fucking weird, and then I blacked out. Next, I swear to God, I floated through my fucking window and out into my yard, and into this white light. I was taken into this room and placed on a table. This room had weird TVs in the wall, and I swear they were moving. They looked alive or some shit, and they were undulating and reacting when I looked at them. I was able to see the tall guy at this point, and I'll never forget his eyes. They were gold and white, large, circular, and absolutely amazing. I could get lost in them. He had a very round, wide head, a stubby nose, and a small mouth. He would smile and tell me,
"Be calm. Be still. Try not to fight it. Relax. You're doing great."
And overall trying to calm me down while I'm having a fucking freak out inside my head that I cannot physically express, and yet I was somehow okay with it. There were others too, shorter ones. They looked the same but smaller, barely above the table, and I could really only see the tops of the heads as they moved around this room. Every time I caught one looking at me, I would get this scary series of images and thoughts pound into my mind. I would start seeing weird shapes, letters, numbers, and what looked like tie-dye waves. I honestly have no idea how to explain it. And there was also a woman with white hair and pale skin. She was talking me through everything going on to some extent. I kept asking questions like, "Where am I? What are you? And who are you? What do you want with me?" You know, typical shit a kidnappee would ask of their captors. And they said that everything would make sense soon, to just be patient. I remember thinking in the moment, "Yeah, sure thing, lady. I'll get right on that." I think they heard me because the tall guy said,
"It's okay. I understand what you may be feeling. Most are the same way."
I remember thinking, "What?" They took hair from me, blood from me, using some kind of round thing. and they stuck these weird cables into my shoulder, and I could feel something moving inside of my shoulder. It was uncomfortable, but not painful, so I don't think it was anything harmful. The lady said that it was normal, and it won't be much longer. At this point, I realized that if I can't leave, I might as well ask questions. So I asked, "Why do you take us?" And she said,
"To understand you."
I asked, "But why?" She replied,
"I can't tell you why yet, but your planet will be allowed to see it if they wish, when we're ready."
I meant to ask another frantic follow-up question, but I blacked out. The next thing I know, I'm seeing vague images of floating back into my room and back onto my bed, and then there was a flash, and it was morning. I can't explain why I was abducted. I just know that I was. So yeah. Anyone else? Last night, possibly around 10 p.m., a few friends and I were outside in my backyard in New Haven, Connecticut, when I spotted what I thought was a very bright star. It then began to move rapidly and fade out. Right after that, I saw flashes of light and what looked like a ball of light being stretched out, then the light almost snapping back into place, but not the same place it was, if that makes sense, and then instantly disappearing. Then, the three of us witnessed what seemed to be extremely bright lights appearing for a second, but it never felt like the light flashed or stayed visible for the same amount of time. It would then disappear, and at one point, seemed to react to a plane that was flying over. If anyone saw this on May 24th in New Haven, Connecticut, please let me know. A few months ago, my mom got a spa. We're actually neighbors, so most nights we'll have a little hangout together, have a catch-up, etc. under the night sky. Me and my mom have always had a fascination with aliens, UFOs, etc. Her having a first-hand experience when she was younger is something a bit wilder than this, but that's another story. But the first time that we saw these lights was still insane to experience firsthand. Now, it's a nightly thing. I think there's only been a handful of times that we hadn't seen anything. So, let's get into it, because I'd love to know if anyone else has had the same sightings. When we first noticed these distant, bright, moving lights, I said, it's probably a satellite. And that's until they started doing maneuvers. We were shocked at how fast they were moving, often slowing down only to quickly zip forward or backward. Sometimes in a zigzag motion across the sky, often small but exaggerated, occasionally very wide movements up and down. On one occasion, we saw two light sources almost chasing one another, occasionally speeding up and doing complex maneuvers, darting across the sky, disappearing and then reappearing. I would have continued to shrug these off as satellites if it weren't for their speed, movements, and patterns. On one occasion, I spotted one that seemed to have multiple light sources. This will be a bit hard to explain, but almost as if it had multiple lights all around it that would turn on and off in different spots. These lights were still far enough away that they could be shrugged off as stars, but the movement of the lights on and around it were still noticeable, even without my glasses. I know that this isn't anything wildly out there, but I'd love to hear if anyone else has had similar experiences.